So if I'm going to talk about the Jazz, the first thing I have to mention is how I said Mike Conley was better than Donovan Mitchell going into this season. And I cursed Conley something fierce because he has not been great so far. He's turned it around a little bit. But the dude's missed a lot of shots, and his fit with this team has not been as seamless as we thought it was going to be. The Utah's offense, beautiful, has not been great. Bojan's been awesome. Donovan Mitchell's been awesome. Joe Ingles has missed some shots. We assume those will just go in. They are having him on the bench now, so it could be a little weird. They're starting Royce O'Neal over him, which I can understand because I think it's the idea of, like, we can put Ingles on the bench and we're going to get the same thing from him, although up to this point we haven't. And in the case of Royce O'Neal, like, he gives us a guy who's not worried as much about shooting, and it's probably good to have that, seeing as we now have Bojan in the starting lineup. So I get it, and Conley, of course. But I think we should talk about Conley because I do think he is kind of the make it or break it thing for this team right now. I mean, I think you could argue that they need, like, more shooting off the bench. They do have Ingles, yeah, but, you know, like, if you could replace Moutier with a guy who could make some threes or something. But the thing with Conley, I think the easy thing to look at is his shot chart and say he's shooting less layups, right? Last season, well, pretty much for his whole career, he has shot about 28% of his shots from 0 to 3 feet away from the basket. This year, he's below 10%. And the obvious thing to say to that is, well, when you're playing with Marc Gasol, the spacing's going to be there. When you're playing with Gobert, it's not. And I do think there is some truth to that. Now, Donovan has not had too much trouble there. He's shooting about the same amount of shots at the rim as he always does. Well, it's slightly less, but it's whatever. But he's a lot more athletic than Conley is, you know? I mean, Mitchell is one of the more athletic dudes off the dribble in the league. Conley is, what, 33 now? 32, whatever he is? And, you know, is it possible that he's lost a quarter of a step? I don't know. There's a couple of plays that I've looked at. One where he, like, couldn't get by Eric Bledsoe at all. Granted, Bledsoe's a good defender, but it was just a moment of, like, damn, usually Conley doesn't look that slow, even if he's never been a super athletic dude. So, I don't know. I think some of this is just Conley, he had so much chemistry with Gasol. Their two-man game was just so damn good. They could read each other's mind, basically. And Gobert is simply not as savvy of an offensive player or as talented as Marc Gasol. Granted, at this point, Gasol averages like 7 points a game. But you know what I mean. For years, Conley's playing with this guy who was one of the best combos of posting up, passing, shooting, and screen setting that there was as a big. So going from that to a roller like Gobert, it's going to be a bit of an adjustment. Now, even besides that, Conley's just missing other shots. I mean, he's kind of just down across the board. I mean, his long twos are still good. He's taking the least amount of those as he's ever taken. But, you know, his threes are down a little bit, and his, like, 10 to 16 footers are worse than they've been throughout most of his career. So some of it is he is just going to turn this around from making shots, but I do also think it's just an adjustment for him, and hopefully he figures it out. He's a smart player. Quinn Snyder's a very smart coach. I assume they're going to figure all that out. As far as other interesting things about this team, I mentioned him a little, Donovan Mitchell. The theory of the floor is going to open up for him, and as a result, the efficiency will improve. Seems to be the case so far. I mean, I don't think he's doing anything drastically different. He has been feeling himself on the threes. A lot of his makes have been kind of contested, where he doesn't really care that there's a dude in front of him, and he is knocking him down without too much trouble. I mean, his jumper has always looked good, and his shooting, everything would suggest he'd be a good shooter. I mean, he basically shot 35% on 7 a game his first 2 seasons while shooting 80% from the line, so we shouldn't be surprised that Donovan Mitchell is shooting 40% from 3 currently. And really, the reasons why his efficiency has improved is the dude just can't really miss from basically anywhere right now. Like, his pull-ups have been amazing. He's shooting over 50% from mid-range, which, you know, that is going to come down a little bit. But, like, you'd think, or you might think, that with more shooting and no favors and Gobert stuff, that Mitchell would just have a million runways to the rim. It hasn't totally been the case, but I think he's just going up with it with like more comfort now, because he just doesn't have as many bodies and arms flailing at him now. I mean, there were times with the Jazz offense where when Mitchell was going, the floor would shrink so much because teams could just dare whoever open a lot, right? And because they just can't do that as much, Mitchell can just go to his comfort zone. I do think his comfort zone kind of is the mid-range. I mean, he's not like a one-dimensional offensive player, but he's very quick to go up with it from like 14 feet. And, you know, when he's just doing that more out of comfort rather than necessity, then that's pretty good. Now, can we still be fearful of his playmaking? Yeah, potentially, but I would say more in the playoffs. I mean, it's another reason why you get Mike Conley, is so he can handle some of that, and that'll come with time, assuming Conley just out of nowhere hasn't forgotten how to make shots in the NBA. So, what do I have on this Jazz team? I think they're really good. Where do they rank in the West right now? I think the Lakers are the best team, and I think the number 2 spot is a little open right now. I mean, Kawhi, PG health, all that. But, you know, Jokic has not looked great out of the jump. I mean, he hasn't looked bad, and he's got a couple buzzer beaters, but he's too fat right now. It's the only way to put it. Like, there was a limit to how heavy Jokic could get, and he's hit that limit. So he needs to scale it back a little bit. And with Houston, I mean, they've won 5 in a row. Still scared of the defense. So maybe Utah is better than them. I don't know. The Jazz are really good. As far as the defense, I mean, we all know the answer to this one. Gobert is the modern day Bill Russell. There you go. There's still going to be a conversation about Gobert in the playoffs. Can he step up on ball handlers? There's that. I do think they could need like another shooter off the bench. I mean, they're going to Moutier and Jeff Green pretty much. A little bit of like Tony Bradley and other dudes. You know, Dwayne Wade on Twitter may like Jeff Green. Jeff Green is not good. He just isn't. You think he's this tall dude who can make threes and defend multiple positions, and then you actually watch him play basketball. And in the case of Moutier, I mean, look, you want to have Moutier as your backup point guard in a playoff series? Be my guest. You know, right now, you do look at the rotation, and it's basically 6 dudes, and then there's a decent minutes drop-off. And to be fair, like in the playoffs, with minutes going up, you might only really need like 7 trustworthy guys, and you hope that your 8th guy is just not a disaster. So they're not far away from that right now. And maybe one of these dudes can emerge for them. You know, Tony Bradley, whoever Jarrell Brantley is. I mean, I don't know. But they might need to get somebody. And I don't think it'd be impossible to just find like a solid player or even a Jeff Green replacement to just kind of not suck for you.